on my foot with the walker right now.
But not 11%.
Not 11%. And then Angel was like, "Your purse weighs 100 or weighs 15 pounds." Oop.
All right. It's 6:30. I'll call this. Should be on the right one. I'll call this official public hearing to order. Angel Cervonia, City Clerk, set the 2021 tax rate.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. As you may recall from last meeting, City Manager Peck, on my behalf, requested to set a public hearing for this evening to set the 2021 property tax rate. The Missouri State Auditor determines the maximum ceiling without requiring a vote of the people, and they actually adjust their rates annually, taking into consideration inflation, increased and assessed values, which this was a reassessment year, and depreciation. Any additional tax revenue the city would receive would come from new construction and improvements. The proposed tax rate for 2021 is $1.1778 of 100 assessed value, $100, which compares to 2020 rate of 1.2381. Thus, a reduction of just over 6 cents per $100 of assessed value. The $1.1778 rate is broken down into the 3 city taxing entities. General fund gets 0.7590, the library gets 0.2854, and police and fire retirement fund gets 0.1334. Just for a long-term comparison, the 2010 tax rate, 11 years ago, was $1.22.50. So 11 years ago was higher than what we are looking at today. Also included in your council packet this evening, I added the Marion and Rawls County aggregate assessed values with a summary of the 2021 assessments compared to 2020. Overall, an increase in assessed values occurred in the amount of $18.5 million, of which of that $994,020 only is new construction and improvements. So in real dollars, using the proposed tax rate, that equates to just over $218,000 for all 3 funds. Comparing that to 2020 tax rate and assessed values, it would be an actual increase in revenue for the city of $79,055, which is not much. And then again, that has to be split over the 3 entities. Just for, I like to give real live numbers and things we can all relate to. I'll give you a homeowner example, and actually my personal home. In 2020, the assessed value with the city tax rate, we were looking at $387.89, what I paid in taxes. With the 2021 assessed value, applying the proposed tax rate, looking at $405.98. So an increase to me personally of $18.09. I know with the reassessment year, again, they account for, the state does, when we have increased in assessed values, they lower the tax rate because they only do account for inflation. I will be requesting an emergency reading to the bill this evening due to the time constraints. We received the documents from the counties late, which is after our second meeting in July. Have to request the public hearing, hold it this evening, and in accordance with section 2.20 of the charter, it does allow for emergency reading in order to set tax rate. Does anyone have any questions?
Do
Yes.
we do not assess property values, right?
No, we do not. The Marion and Rawls County assessors respectively set those rates.
And those are elected positions.
They are elected positions.
So that's totally out of our hands.
It is completely out of our hands.
So the state sets the rates. Do they set the distribution? So we're looking at a distribution between general, library, and police and fire retirement.
Yes, they define how much of that can go to each entity. Now, the library has a cap of 0.3, and that is based on when they took it to the vote of the people in the 80s, it's a cap of 0.3. So yes, the state also identifies the maximum, not only overall, but the maximum of each taxing entity.
So we as a city are not lowering or raising taxes, we're just along for the ride.
Correct.
Thank you, Angel. You have some very good examples.
Welcome.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against the tax rate? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Next one's at 6:45.
Benjamin?
Okay, 6:45, City of Hannibal official public hearing, call to order. E. Rothman, DPW Management Assistant. It is.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. So tonight I'm asking to change the current B multiple family zoning to allow for galleries, but I kind of want to give a backstory as to where we got to this point. Josh and Adrian Taloli first came to planning and zoning back in June, asking to rezone the property at 513 Church Street. The property is currently zoned B multiple family. They asked to rezone it to C local business to put in an art gallery. They went through planning and zoning, did a minor subdivision, minored that lot together with another one. They put in a parking lot. They did all the proper building permits as they were supposed to. Problem is that that entire block on Church Street is completely zoned B multiple family. There is no commercial that touches it. Once you cross the street, you've got the Crossing Church, you've got F&M Bank, you have a hair shop. So there is commercial across the street, but it is not contingently touching the 513 Church Street address. So in our code, technically that is considered spot zoning. So instead of denying the request, another option was to actually change our zoning code to galleries and family listing. So that is what we were here tonight for the public hearing.
Questions?
Yes. All right. So we're not spot zoning because it's across the street from commercial. What actually defines that border that we cannot consider that contingent?
Street.
Yeah, usually you wouldn't want to go across the street into like one property in the middle of a block. And in this case, there isn't actually a rezoning that's going to happen. What's going to happen is the definition of galleries is going to be added to the B multifamily list of allowed uses.
What is the definition of a gallery?
The definition, do you have it handy?
It's in the ordinance itself, but it's not like a specific gallery. It's just very vague. It's just galleries. It's not. This doesn't list if it's like a statue gallery or a painting gallery. It's just gallery uses.
My problem with this is say all of a sudden I become an artist and I want to make my own art and I live in that zone. So now I can start a gallery in my house. Does a gallery have to have a business license? Does a gallery sell things?
Yeah, it has to have a business license.
Yeah.
As it's earning a
So
profit.
ineffectively, we'd be actually, not on purpose, spot zoning a lot of places to open up their own business.
Can you read some of the, do you have it in front of you? Can you read some of the other definitions that are under multifamily?
Sure do. Any use permitted in the A district, multiple family dwellings, apartments, and group houses, boarding houses or lodging houses, clubs, lodge houses, fraternities and sororities, hospitals and clinics, buildings that are accessories to any uses in subsections 1 through 5, parking garages, bed and breakfast, offices where no tangible personal property is produced, processed, stored, received, sold, or delivered to a commercial trade, and then the adding of galleries.
To me, that opens up for someone to sell makeup, lipstick, handbags, just all these stuff that people do as these side hustles, businesses in their own home. And
What was that, Mike?
See, I think you've got that anyway in residential. I have not asked, but I've got a neighbor. A lot of people come and go.
so avoiding the spot zoning across the street would actually enable them to operate a business.
The Planning and Zoning Board was agreeable with this. They were not comfortable with the spot zoning. They were agreeable with adding this definition.
It sounds like we're trying to define things with pretty broad strokes, though. I mean, a gallery is anything?
I think based on what Edie was telling us, a gallery is related to something related to the creative arts.
Sure. Will they be selling things like the gallery exhibits?
This particular address is selling art, paintings, sculptures, but I don't know that the next one would be. I can only speak on behalf of this one.
I find a little bit of heartburn with that.
Colin, is your issue with the art gallery itself, or is your issue with the definition of art gallery being?
My issue is with changing an entire ordinance to basically create another use.
That's not an infrequent thing to happen.
By definition, if you look, a gallery is a room or a building for display or sale of works of art. Real simple.
All right, so what would be the difference in a zoned commercial area and a zoned residential area at that point in time?
Zone commercial area, if you wanted, not now, but if you wanted to have a strip bar there, you could have a strip bar in a commercial area.
Sure. I mean, it's a pretty fine line of definition, though.
Yeah, frankly, I'm okay with mixed-use zoning in every which way, shape, or form, so I welcome for that reason. And I think our neighborhoods would be benefited by having a bit more, I guess, visual arts, for lack of a better phrase. Plus, I personally know these folks but
I don't personally know them, so I have no bias on that. So,
But I could see your heartburn, Colin, because if my neighbor decided to turn his house into an art gallery, I have little kids. I really don't want any more traffic in and out of my neighborhood. You know, there's a place to do that.
Right.
It's zoned for that. So I think that for me, like you're saying, it's right across the street. So it basically touches that. I would be supportive of that. If you were coming to me saying, hey, I want to put this gallery out in the middle of Lake Apollo, which is my neighborhood, I'd be like, this. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with both of you. Like I get,
Yeah.
both points, but
it's like
You're
It's zoned
we're the
for
city
commercial.
council. You can take planning and zoning's recommendation and run with it, or you can
Send it back.
or you can send it back,
we could amend it right here.
or you can amend it.
There would have to be
Yeah,
a
it has to-
public hearing.
So, is there anyone else that would like to speak before or for or against?
anything else you want to add, Edie?
Then if not, I'll close the public hearing. The council meeting starts at 7.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ready? Okay. It's 7 o'clock, Tuesday, April 17th, 2021, council chambers. This is the City of Hannibal official council agenda. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Here.
Welch,
Here.
Beach, McCoy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Here.
Councilmember Franke,
Present.
and Mayor Hark.
There being a quorum present, I call the meeting to order. I'll do the invocation. Heavenly Father, in our hearts, we plan our course, but we pray that you establish our steps. I pray that we seek you for advice. Let us not make decisions based upon what we know, but let us act based upon your wisdom. Please guide us, Lord. We place this meeting in your hands. Place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us. Councilman,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd answer for motion to excuse the mayor.
And Councilman Beach.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? There's excuse. As for next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Need a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the approval of minutes from the regularly scheduled council meeting, August 3rd, 2021.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Approval of payroll and claims, first half of August 2021. Need a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Mayor Harks was a local state of emergency Thursday, August 12th, 2021. Storm and localized flash flooding is in your packet. Do you want to say anything?
Not about the actual state of emergency. There's declaration.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the mayor's declaration.
Make motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Lisa Peck, approval bid waiver, local emergency declaration, repairs and cleanout.
yes, as happened in the past, I am requesting approval of a bid waiver for this, for repairs and cleanup associated with the local emergency declaration. The city manager and the director of emergency services may appropriate and expend funds, make contracts, obtain and distribute equipment, materials, and supplies for civil defense purposes, provide for the health and safety of persons, including emergency assistance to victims of any enemy attack, provide for the safety of property, and direct and coordinate the development of disaster plans and programs in accordance with policies and plans of the federal and state disaster and emergency plan. And then the other section that's involved is the council shall have the right to waive the bidding requirements required by subsection C and the monetary limits set out in subsection A in the event of a state of emergency directly affecting the city of Hannibal and as so declared by council action. So what I would be asking for is, in the event, we still have not done a complete assessment of what we're going to have out there. Even with limb pickup, it's going to take people some time to get that out there. So whether or not we would need to hire additional forces to assist with that is as of yet unknown. So I am in keeping with past practice requesting the approval of the bid waiver.
So
How long is the timeline on that?
I think the same as the emergency declaration.
Timeline on that?
I don't know. I mean, if they come back with like a state or federal declaration, they'll spell out a time period from time to time. Again, this is past practice that y'all have done, so.
Right.
Any other questions? I need a motion to approve.
Yeah, I have a question. It says the city manager and the director, emergency management director. You've been in contact with him over all this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and he was in contact with the mayor over the declaration. I've spoken with him pretty much every day, a couple times a day.
Need a motion to approve the bid waiver? I hear a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Approvals of appointments and reappointment. Hannibal Parks and Recreation Board for a second reading. Cammie Harsel to the appointment for a term to expire July of 2023. And Casey Welch, reappointment for a term to expire July of 2024. This is a second reading, so I need a motion to approve.
Just to clarify, that's not my brother, Casey Welch. That's the other Casey Welch, right? The lawyer? Yeah. Okay. Oh. I'm sure one of them doesn't like that.
I need a motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Take the ARPA.
Okay.
So in your packet and for your review, and there's a resolution to follow regarding the receipt of the paperwork necessary for the receipt of the ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We need to submit these funds in order for us to be able to receive our funds from the state. And so the documents that are included are necessary in order to receive.
So just to be clear, the federal government is giving the money to the state, and the state is appropriating it to us.
They're not appropriating it to us. The feds already did the appropriation. They're just giving it to them for the dissemination. So because we're a non-entitlement community, the entitlement communities received, counties and cities, receive their funding directly from the Treasury. Ours will go to the state in an amount that's already predetermined by the U.S. Treasury. And then we have to send in the application, and then at some point we will receive half the money to begin with.
So this is nothing that we can do lobbying or jockeying for. They just give us an amount, and that's what we live with.
That's it. Yes.
So another thing where we're not a part of this, we're just waiting.
We're just waiting around. We are supposed to receive half of it to begin with, and then a year, and I'm assuming it is a year from the date of receipt and not the date that it was supposed to be sent out. We should receive the second portion of it, but that's a year from now.
So we're talking $3.2 million and $1.6 million installments, but until it's in our hands.
I don't count my chickens before they're hatched.
Well, before you can have the eggs.
Yes, exactly.
So then talk to me, please, about what we can spend this money on.
As it stands right now, and the guidance is continually being updated, it can be spent on broadband. That is one thing that they are pushing big time. Water, wastewater. If you have reduction in revenue, then you can spend it on services. We are not anticipating that. Don't. If you can also spend it on premium pay for essential workers, essential emergency workers, basically. and there's new clarification that comes out. And so I figure I keep up on the guidance that's out there, kind of look it over each week. But until we actually have the money, I don't have any guidance that I'm running with.
So you said water and wastewater. Did you mean to say stormwater as well?
We believe so.
Okay.
So I immediately thought that it would be water, wastewater, and stormwater when I heard water and sewer, because it's storm sewer. Then it was for a little bit, it was like, oh no, wastewater, the stormwater is not included in it. Now the definition is that they do have it in it.
Okay, so just to summarize, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. We're waiting on money that we have no control over how much we get. We're not quite sure yet what it can be spent on. And we're not quite sure how much we get.
We're pretty certain we will be getting somewhere close to...
No certainty.
No certainties
Yeah,
at all, and no certainties. They say that we'll get the second tranche of it, but yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Resolution number 2359-21 to follow. Next on the agenda is LaDonna Hampton, 1921 Missouri Avenue. Elections, ballots, tax increases. It could be a time better, huh?
Okay, so I felt like that the advertisement hasn't been good for like the election process for that's not presidential elections and stuff. For example, I didn't even really realize that there was going to be, us be voting on anything at all until I had got a call that they needed some help working. I was like, well, what are they voting on, And so I started researching to see if I could find anything online. I didn't see anything. And so then I got to seeing it 2 days before on the Facebook. And then I got talking to some of the election workers when I was working, and they said that you did have it on the local news and the newspaper, but my thoughts is that we're living in different times now where most people don't really watch the local news, or they don't even get the local news anymore. They're on Netflix, they're on Roku, stuff like that. People don't really get the newspaper anymore. I mean, some of the older people do, but some of the younger don't. And when I worked, I noticed that only 9% of the people showed up. And I would have probably not showed up, and it's next door. You know what I mean? Had I not been working and stuff. And so I was just wondering if we could send a flyer through the mail with a sample ballot to the voters. How come?
Can I address that?
Yes.
Mayor Protem. So here's the deal. The Missouri Ethics Commission, Missouri Ethics Commission about 8-10 years ago was apparently feeling neglected and people weren't giving them proper attention. So they started deciding to really crack down on publicity on elections, in particular, any type of an election that if it involved a tax or anything like that. The city of Hannibal had a complaint filed on it 6-7 years ago regarding doing exactly what you proposed. They didn't even mail them out. What they did was they created some flyers. They, I think, might have put them in some utility bills regarding an upcoming election. A complaint was filed, and what the Missouri Ethics Commission held was that basically any public money that was spent on publishing and also any money that was spent on the time of employees to create the flyer were all a violation of the law. Now, I personally don't agree with that.
How do we get it to change?
Call your legislators and tell them to get the Ethics Commission to take a look at it.
I left my thing here and they said the call Marion County thing first, so I did, and then they sent me to the legislatures. I talked to them, and they blew me off. They told me to go
only-
back to y'all.
Who you need to talk to is you need to talk to your state representative and your state senator. And if they tell you that you're wrong, you can tell them to give me a call.
I did
Because
tell them to
I'll
call
chat-
me. I
I'll
still haven't
chat
heard
with
from them.
Lewis. I don't know if you're inside the city limits, it'd be Lewis. But if you're down in Rawls County, it might be somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll be happy to chat with them about the fact that the Ethics Commission doesn't follow its own internal rules. They make misjudgments of the law, and that as a result, they've got all the municipalities scared to death to even put out something informational, let alone something that's, because I hear what they're saying if they say, we don't want you to put out some kind of puff piece that tries to sell people on what you're doing. But if what you're giving is information, that the law is
this
very
was-
clear, that's not a violation, but that's not what the ethics
Well, this was
commission
the other part that bothered me. I felt like when it said infrastructure, it was kind of vague, and it wasn't more explanatory. And I think had it been more explanatory, there might have been an end date to the tax, then probably more people would have,
I
been
totally
interested
agree.
in saying yes on it. But, I mean, whenever it's open-ended and it doesn't say, well, we're working on this, because, I mean, like, if we're planning our own budget, we plan for it ahead of time, and we know what we're going to be working on. And so if we do that on our own household, we should be doing this at the city level and all the way up and stuff, because I know that they didn't do that in the federal government on this last infrastructure bill. Only 5% of that was on infrastructure, and the rest was their port.
But they get to print their own money.
Huh?
They
Oh,
get
I
to print
know.
their own money.
I know, and it's really not their money, but,
Right.
so, anyway, I will go back and I will try again.
We appreciate you coming up here. Thank you.
If they don't give you what you want, please come back and tell us. Okay, I will. In all seriousness, thank you.
Angelica Sabonia, City Clerk, Certification of Special Municipal Election, August 3rd, 2021.
There. I have the certification of the special municipal election on August 3rd, 2021, and I am certifying that the following is a true copy of the certification held of the election August 3rd as certified to me by the Marion and Rawls County Clerks. The results of the special election, Proposition 1, shall the city of Hannibal impose an additional limited city sales tax of 0.5% for the sole purpose of funding citywide infrastructural and remedial improvements. If adopted, this new tax shall continue until repealed by the voters of Hannibal by a certified election. Yes votes, Marion County 367, Rawls County 2, for a total yes votes of 369. No votes, Marion County 392, Rawls County 3, for a total of 395, showing a total vote of 764 for Proposition 1 for the city of Hannibal, 369 yes and 395 no, declaring Proposition 1 having failed by 26 votes.
Okay. I have a motion for approval of the certification.
I move.
Second.
All those, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries. Next item.
My next item is the
Later.
fiscal year 2020-21 audit services. As you all are aware, all city entities, including the library and Board of Public Works, are required to have an independent audit annually, as outlined in the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, along with other state and federal entities that mandate that we do so. In the spring of 2020, the city solicited requests for proposals from qualified accounting firms, with Williams Keepers submitting the most responsive proposal to meet our needs. Council approved via Resolution 2280-20 a one-year engagement with Williams Keepers with an option for 2 one-year renewals. Williams Keepers have submitted a letter of engagement year 1 of the 2 optional years to conduct the city's fiscal year 2020-21 audit, in an amount of $51,750. This amount would be divided between the city entities for 60% of the total cost, with the Board of Public Works responsible for 40%. City Manager Peck and I held an initial meeting with the auditing firm, and pending council approval, they plan to be on site to conduct field work in September. And in the meantime, I've been working to upload identified documents and reports into their secured portal, so they are able to conduct the majority of the review and work prior to actually coming on site. This will allow for them to conduct random testing on various processes and procedures, focusing on that when they are on site, random. We were satisfied with the services provided by Williams Keepers last year, and we would recommend council approve and authorize Mayor Pro Tem to execute the engagement letter for the city's fiscal year 2020-21 audit services.
Resolution number 2360-21 to follow. Got one more item.
All right, and my last item is what I spoke in depth about during the 6:30 public hearing this evening for the 2021 tax rate, proposed tax rate, and just requesting that this evening this be given an emergency reading in accordance with guidelines that allow for in section 2.20 of the charter, allowing us to set and have an emergency reading for the tax rate.
Bill number 21-025 to follow. Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services, purchase and approval of a 2022 4x4 Chevrolet Silverado 3500s.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I got two items tonight. First, purchase approval for two 2022 4x4 Chevy Silverado 3500s. Don Brown Chevrolet had the state bid, and they were the low, with both trucks coming in a total of $60,100. One of those goes to parks, one will go to streets. Something new we're going to do, we're actually going to bid the snowplow attachments and the spreader bodies separate, so that we can independently work with those companies, and then both trucks will be exactly the same. We're going to do that going forward with all our trucks.
So really good price for a
Very good
one-ton
price.
truck.
Yeah, very good price. But the goal is to have a larger fleet instead of just the handful of snowplow trucks we have for the street department. Spread that out, and that way, if we have everything equal, things break down. We don't have a million different parts laying around. So,
Could you dumb that down a little for me, Andy? Could you dumb that down a little bit for me? So you're just saying that by having multiple of the same version of trucks, you gain an economy of scale when it comes to fixing
Right.
and maintaining them?
right now we have Dodges and Fords and Chevys, and we've got Napa snowplows, we have Henderson snowplows, so when things break down, we have to have so many different kinds of parts. Mechanics don't necessarily work on the same pieces of equipment. We really so street snowplow goes down in the middle of the night and they got to borrow the park one. We'd like everything to be the same, because right now we have 7 different levers in 7 different trucks. Some are joysticks, some are, lever things. When you're snowplowing, it's like to be consistent. So the goal is to try to keep it as consistent as possible. We're trying to do that with a lot of our equipment, our lawnmowers and things like that.
And the equipment also would be interchangeable. So you'd be able to take the snowplow off of one and put it on another.
And that's the thing with the Parks and Rec trucks. They've never had spreader bodies. So they have a snowplow, but when you're out in the streets and you can't spread any salt, they're not a whole lot of good. So the Parks Department will buy this first spreader body because they need it for a lot of the parks as well as the streets. And going forward, the sales tax cap will buy spreader bodies for the rest of the park trucks that can be used. But then the Parks Department will pay for the truck and the snow plows. So
Instead of having an ad hoc approach, you're creating a system.
yeah.
Oh.
We noticed last year we had multiple snowplow trucks go down. When they're down, they're down. We don't have any more.
Everybody
So
knows.
having a backup, and it's not even a backup, having the ability to actually run more trucks at one given time. So it's kind of a twofer there. So
Okay, any other questions? Need a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have the Coronavirus Relief Grant Program Agreement with the Missouri Highway Transportation. In order to get $9,000 in federal aviation money, we need to enter in this agreement with them. So this is a resolution that will follow. The $9,000 must be spent on any past operational expenses over the last year. So that's what it's for.
Okay. Any questions for Andy on that? Resolution number 2361-21 to follow. E.D. Grotman, DPW Management Assistant. You have several.
I do. Good evening again. I have 4 agenda items. My first one is just a brief recap from the public hearing I had earlier at 6:45 regarding changing the current B multiple family zoning to allow galleries. I can cover it again, or if there's any additional questions that have come up, I'm happy to answer them.
Anybody else have questions?
I kind of want to raise the same subject that I did earlier. I feel like we are unknowingly creating these galleries that are just anywhere in residential B, which I don't think the definition of gallery actually, it might be appropriate for that business, but I don't think the definition of the word gallery is a sharp enough point. I figure that we're going to have a lot of small businesses open up in residential areas because my craft is my art. An example I just made is if I took mirrors and I cut them in a squiggly line, them all on a board, that would be art. I can now open a glass shop in my neighborhood. This is a legitimate concern of mine, and it's not because I have any qualms about somebody doing art at all. I have no bias towards anyone. I don't even know the people involved. I just think this is opening up a can of worms and a loophole. I think by not spot zoning that area, we're creating a lot of spot zoning areas.
I don't quite buy into the slippery slope fallacy there.
Could I not do that though?
Sure, but I still don't think that's going to happen.
I know we can think that it won't happen.
If it
but
doesn't pass, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I just, in my wildest dreams, I don't see people all of a sudden opening up shops in the neighborhood.
They are right there.
That's a historic downtown pedestrian-friendly walkable area that already has bed and breakfast that are walkable and businesses and residential neighborhoods.
Are those bed and breakfasts in a residential zoned area?
Yes. What?
The bed and breakfast, we can't really designate where they can be. They can be anywhere. So we've had this conversation.
And I
So-
think those complement bed and breakfast, to tell you the truth.
Sure. I actually enjoy staying at bed and breakfast, but it's a completely opposite thing. That is one service that one person provides in an area. Now, you're actually opening up a section where, okay, their neighbor, they now want to do the exact same thing. So now we have 2 shops right next to each other. That neighbor sees that neighbor succeed, and they have another shop. Before long, we have a business district in our residential area.
I frankly just don't see that happening. Any which way, shape, or form. And on top of that, I'm not opposed to open zoning, so that's what we do.
Okay. Bill number 21-026 to follow, and there'll be an opportunity for further discussion there.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
My next 3 are all reselling of city properties. The first one is the address at 1310/1312 Collier. Kayla Crew, who owns the lot at 1308, which is the next door to property, has been maintaining this lot for the past 3 years. The city obtained this lot during a tax sale. She would just like to purchase it to have additional yardage at her property. All covenants and special warranty deeds have been signed by Kayla Crew. We would be selling the lot for $500 plus recording fees.
You said 1308. Is that the one she owns? Sorry.
She owns 1308.
Okay, I thought
And then-
you-
Yes, and then she'd be buying 1310/12 Collier.
Thank you.
Neighboring property. It's just vacant.
Right. Somebody drove by and I missed
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
If,
Yep.
if she owned or if she was buying and I didn't want it to be wrong on the minute.
Okay,
So.
resolution number 2362-21 to follow.
The next one is the selling of 1800 Grace Street. This was a property that the city obtained after a fire destroyed the home earlier this year. There was no insurance on it. The city tore it down. The people that would like to purchase it is Angie Skaggs and Derek Ponder. They own the neighboring lot at 215 North Locust, just a corner lot there. They would like to purchase it to have a bigger yard for their children. Same thing, all covenants and special warranty deeds have been signed. They too would purchase the lot for $500 plus closing and recording fees.
Resolution number 2363-21 to follow.
And my last one is the selling of 919 Church Street to Douglas Community Services. They had reached out to our city manager a few months ago about wanting to buy this property to turn it into a parking lot. They have additional growth in the area, so they're using this for parking for their tenants. We received a resolution from their board on the property as well as signing all covenants and special warranty deeds on our end. We would also sell this one for $500 plus recording fees.
Okay, resolution number 2364-21 to follow.
Can I ask a question real quick? So, Edie, can you just tell me a little bit about why it's $500? Because people who are not aware of this process might think to themselves, wow, how do I get a deal like that?
That was what city council decided was
We
a
set a
good-
precedence
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Several years back.
Now, we do have a property that will be coming up soon where we have multiple people that are interested. So like on that one, we will go out for close bid on that particular property. But it's just, that was what was said.
So,
All the
what-
properties are listed on the city website too,
They
correct?
are, correct.
Just for information.
They
So
are.
if people are interested, they can,
Yeah, it
there.
changes constantly. Yeah, we update that list.
Mayor Pro
Almost
Tem,
every
could
day.
I address it a little bit? Sure. Councilman, the concept was that there are several ways that the city can dispose of property. One way, the formal way to do that would be to, if someone requests that they be allowed to purchase the property, that require an appraisal, it's open for bids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the way we did it for years and years and years. The problem with that is that junk property that people don't want, no one is willing to pay for an appraisal, which frequently will run you $400 or $500, let alone come in for junk bids. There is a provision under the ordinance that says if it's a special circumstance that you can do something else. The concept that the council came up with was that it's better to get property back onto the tax rolls, get individuals maintaining the properties or building something that it becomes productive and goes back into the tax rolls. And that's why there's a preference given to people that are adjacent to it, because obviously they have a vested interest in maintaining it, making it nice. It improves the value of their property for the tax rolls if they're heading onto it. If they're going to build something on it, there's a small subdivision process where they make it all part of one lot, so they build a garage or something like that, again, raising the value of the property tax rolls and just generally improving our neighborhoods and things ahead. The $500 was just something the council came up with. We don't want it to just be frivolous, so it requires somebody to pay base fee plus get all the title services done and everything. And then the other thing we started was the council requested I craft some covenants and restrictions that would allow us to take the property back immediately. We didn't follow those covenants and restrictions. Those covenants and restrictions include you have to obey all the laws and ordinances. You have to keep it in decent repair. And so basically, it all turns into a program of a way to get these things off the city rolls, get them back into private hands, get private hands that are actually going to take care of them, the way our city is. I know I got really long-winded. That's where the whole program comes from.
You answered everything I asked and more.
Okay.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
He gets paid by the word. Resolution number 2359-21, I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Bill number 2359-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute documents related to the acceptance of the State of Missouri American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund and the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. Council members Bowen,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2359-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. If resolution number 2360-21, I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Resolution number 2360-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal approving a letter of engagement between the city and Williams Keepers, further authorizing mayor to execute said document for city audit services, including the library and Board of Public Works, in the amount of $51,750. City entities, $31,050. Board of Public Works, $20,700 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Council members Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke.
I declare resolution number 2360-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now I'll have resolution number 2361-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution number 2361-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Federal Aviation Administration Department Airport Coronavirus Relief Grant Program Agreement in order to receive $9,000 for operational expenses at the Hannibal Regional Airport. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2361-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. And now have resolution number 2362-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution number 2362-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for transfer of real estate and special warranty deed for the sale of city-owned property known as 1310 through 12 Collier Street between the city and Kayla Crew in the amount of $500 plus fees. Council members Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2362-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have resolution number 2363-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution number 2363-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor pro tem to execute an agreement for the transfer of real estate and special warranty deed for the sale of city-owned property known as 1800 Grace Street between the city and Angie Skaggs and Derek Ponder in the amount of $500 plus fees. Council members Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2363-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have resolution number 2364-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution number 2364-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor pro tem to execute an agreement for transfer of real estate and special warranty deed for the sale of city-owned property known as 919 Church Street to Douglas Community Services in the amount of $500 plus fees. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2364-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have Bill number 21-022. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
I move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-022, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Office of State Courts Administrator for automation of the municipality's court under Show Me Courts automation software and amending the code of the City of Hannibal, Chapter 18, Municipal Courts, Article 2, Cost and Fees, Section 18-32, Amount of Cost of the ordinances of the City of Hannibal. Second and final reading. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 21-022 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have Bill number 21-023. I need the motion to have the clerk give this bill a second final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-023, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal amending Chapter 16, Article 1, Section 16-1 penalties, and Chapter 19, Article 1, Section 19-5 penalties of the City of Hannibal Code of Ordinances for the purpose of revising nuisance and littering penalties. Second and final reading. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 21-023 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have Bill number 21-024. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-024, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal vacating a portion of an undeveloped street lying in Stillwell Hayward subdivision of the City of Hannibal, Marion County, Missouri. Second and final reading. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 21-024 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have Bill number 21-025. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill an emergency reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-025, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal fixing and adopting the rate of taxation for the year of 2021 and levying taxes therefore. Emergency reading. Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 21-025 duly approved and adopted on this day. I need a motion, or Bill number 21-026. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
Make a motion.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Just my one from earlier.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Read the bill, guys.
Just to read, yep. Councilmembers Bowen,
No.
Welch,
No.
McCoy,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
Okay.
2, 3.
Okay, where do we go from here, City Councilor?
Well, probably need to refer it back to planning and zoning. I guess my question would be, there's nothing formally on the record. I was hearing some opinion from at least one councilman that they didn't necessarily agree that this was spot zoning.
Correct.
Perhaps it needs to be referred back to planning and zoning with appropriate notice of public hearing for rezoning. If the council's not inclined to accept an amendment to the zoning code, if you're going to address this issue for these people, I think the only way you could do that is by rezoning. And I did hear in the discussion, I believe at least one councilman that thought that perhaps it wasn't spot zoning. My opinion would be, the issue is that the piece of property is across the street from other property that has a similar zoning that would allow for the gallery. You could argue it both ways, quite frankly. You could argue that that's spot zoning, but you could also say that a street isn't effective to divide the zone. And in my opinion, I think if it's litigated, I think it's more likely a court would go the other way. But I wasn't at that planning and zoning meeting, so I don't know if that was taken into consideration. So I guess I would suggest maybe the best thing to do would be to refer it back. And if any of the council that had strong feelings on it wanted to attend that meeting to advise planning and zoning their thoughts, that would be great. If you want me to go, you just need to remind me when the meeting is. I'll come and talk about the legal issues.
We have a meeting this week, but it's too late to put it on for this month. It'd have to be next.
Yeah, I think to be perfectly safe, because you kind of changed the issues again, I think it would be appropriate. I know, there's the expense and blah, 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 but I think it would be best that way. Anybody that's interested is going to know, they're going to have an opportunity to come and be heard. I've kind of gone on the record regarding what my thoughts are, and that may spark, not that I'm so arrogant to think people care what I think, but it may spark someone to want to come and be heard also. So I think it would be best if you did publish.
I'm going to put a question out there, and I'm going to direct it towards Collins. He's been the most vocal, but anybody else, feel free to hop in, please. Would you feel more comfortable with this in terms of getting to a yes if the definition of gallery was far more refined?
Yes, absolutely, because what I don't want is our neighborhoods turning into business districts.
Okay, because that would, at least the way I'm thinking about it, isn't, let's say somebody else wants to open an art gallery. That means they don't have to jump through the hoops every single time, and there's a more streamlined process. That's just the way I'm approaching it.
I think a better definition of the word gallery would clear things up a lot.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, if you want to try to do that first before you take it back to planning and zoning, we could certainly do that. Now, the issue you'll need to understand is because it still requires a change in the zoning code, we probably still have to republish and send it back to planning and zoning for the changes that the council proposes. So,
Can we rezone it to anything else? Does it have to be this? My reason for no is that it seems we're changing it for one person. This isn't like a mass thing to fix a whole bunch of problems. It's let's do all this work to change code for one individual. Can we not change it? Can we not rezone that one individual spot if we're talking about one individual citizen?
I wasn't at that planning and zoning meeting, and I wasn't in on some of the initial discussions. When it was brought to me for legal review, what was expressed to me was that galleries are the nature of a business that is more typically like a home-based business. Home-based businesses are already allowed in this zone,
Right.
and so the concept was that doing it as a gallery would be in line with our prior practice of home-based businesses being allowed in this zone. We didn't get super specific. I don't really know why, other than just people didn't think a gallery is a gallery. I
No,
guess,
we
when people
use the
thought.
definition of gallery that was in the rest of the code. So, it's the same consistent
Okay.
definition.
But the concept of adding gallery to this zone was the idea that it's more akin to a home-based business which is already allowed in this zone. So that was the idea of adding gallery to it.
So planning and zoning felt as though adding that, the gallery was a better idea than, doing a spot zoning, of which it was not contiguous because it was separated by the street.
And
Repeat it again and again.
right, and the thing of it is I would agree with planning and zoning. It's never appropriate to spot zone. But my point is, I'm not certain that this is spot zoning. If the only thing that divides it from the other zone is a street, I think there's a decent argument that, in fact, it is contiguous. And the example I'll give would be, in a business district, it's very common to have across the street from each other different types of businesses, but they're all in a business district together. So, again, and I'm certainly not saying, this is going to lead to litigation, et cetera, but when I look at these things, I look at what have I seen in the case law and what am I looking at it for legal review. As a general rule, the cases support the concept of freedom of use by the owner of the property, and it is basically restrictions are looked on with disfavor. So because of the fact that I think it could be argued both ways, I think it's more likely that in a situation like that, that they would find that that was not spot zoning, that it was contiguous, and that therefore you should allow it to be rezoned. But
Okay. Edie, you'll take care of it. Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned.